Welcome to GOS Media. I'm JL Smith. Two Harvard physicists wanted to prove to the world that people are inherently good and only commit evil when basic needs are not met. The physicists were experts in AI and supercomputer technology, so they created a simulation of a perfect world where no natural disasters or rough weather occurred. They populated this world with men and women of various ages and removed any possibility for suffering or hardship. The population was provided all physiological needs, such as adequate housing, sufficient food, clothes to wear, full employment, and opportunity for relaxation and socializing. The scientists even allowed for relationships to form, and every person was given high self-esteem, cordiality, and a good-natured personality. They then set the time sequence to be 24 hours of real time equaled 1 month of simulation time. They had truly created a perfect world and a society where every need was met and the people were content. Satisfied that they had accounted for all variables, they flipped the switch and sat back to watch. The first couple months in the simulation were great. There was no strife. People congregated together, and everyone was on an upwardly mobile track. The scientists were excited that they were on the verge of proving that if needs were met and people were provided for, everyone benefited and lived in harmony. It was after the third month that people in the simulation started to become bored and complain about being perfect in a perfect world. Folks wanted to help one another, but there was nothing to help with. They were perfect, and so was their world. As the simulation continued, boredom was becoming discontent, and the people began to disconnect from one another and form into small groups. Before the scientists knew it, competition broke out between the groups, and after another month, groups began to harass and sabotage other groups. The scientists shut down their simulated world after only 8 months because the people began fighting amongst themselves, trying to destroy one another. Extremely disappointed that perfect people in a perfect world would eventually turn on one another, the scientists wrote their report and concluded that men are not inherently good. Left to our own devices, we are inherently evil. Humans are capable of great feats of compassion. For instance, in 1982, a plane ran off the runway and crashed into the icy Potomac River. Fortunately, rescue was nearby, and a helicopter began plucking people out of the water one at a time. A man in a business suit was next to be picked up, but instead, he let a female take his spot. The second time the helicopter came for him, he helped an old man to get on the rope, and the old man was flown to safety. The helicopter returned for the third time, and for the third time, the man in the business suit gave someone else his spot. On the helicopter's fourth trip, the man was gone. The cold water had weakened him, and he slipped under the water and drowned. There were several men in business suits found at the bottom of the river, meaning no one knows who this man is. The reason stories like this strike a chord in our soul is because it's rare and counterintuitive to our own sensibilities. When a crisis strikes, the slogan, "Every man for himself," is on full display. Why do you think so many are crushed to death in emergencies? Evolutionists tell us that unguided and random mutations, acting on random genetic code over vast periods of time, more than created the human species. It has also created the capacity to form a moral code of inherent goodness. But how can that be? Pitiless DNA dancing to its predetermined music can never find a reason to be kind to others. The greatest evidence of man's evolutionary tendencies is found no further than the Holocaust. The notion of right and wrong, of good and evil, must have a final arbitrator that lies outside of the person. And it is the final arbitrator that has established the condition or criteria for distinguishing good from evil that the person must be judged against. Unless we find a way to reconcile our innate human tendency to do evil, an outside way to reconcile evil unto goodness, we are doomed to today's grain of sugar. Man needs no cause. His own heart lures him to evil. Thanks for stopping by. We could really use your support. So will you please like, subscribe, and share with others? Or maybe become a colony member by joining us on Patreon or snatch up some merch from our website. Links are pinned below. Once again, thanks for tuning into Grades of Sugar. I've been your host, JL Smith.